You're a very intelligent man, and you're a man who people rely on. I mean, just on the health side of things, I know that Just Stop Oil say they have a policy of allowing blue lights through when they block roads, but we've seen from footage that doesn't always happen. That's got to be a concern for someone like you, hasn't it?
So you're absolutely right. We do have a policy to let blue lights through. My phone is full of photos and videos of us doing exactly that. If there's some footage circulating of an ambulance where it looks like it's not being allowed through as quick as possible, then I don't know the circumstances, but in my experience, we've always let blue lights through. Let me tell you, we have paramedics who are amongst our campaign group. We actually have lots of health professionals who recognise that the real issue here is the climate crisis, that the climate crisis is killing people right now, and it transcends all these other issues. It's the most important issue. I can tell you that the World Health Organization has said the climate crisis is the biggest threat to human health ever faced by humanity. So what Just Stop Oil is saying is if we want to save lives and help people's health, we have to end all new fossil fuel licensing and projects right away. And that's the obvious thing to do if you want to help people's health. That's the issue we're really dealing with here.
Patrick, I think a lot of people out there would support the eventual aim of what you're talking about here, which is obviously looking after our planet, looking after the environment, keeping it safe for our future generations. I don't think there's many people who would argue with that, but people take issue with the way that you go about things. I mean, isn't this for you about converting people? You already have supporters on your side. We see them out in the streets. We see them blocking the roads in North London. That's the most recent thing we've seen. This is more about converting people that aren't yet on your side. And how do you intend on growing a movement and bringing more people on board if you're constantly upsetting them, aggravating them, stopping them from getting to work, stopping them from getting to hospital appointments? I mean, it just makes it easier for those people who don't yet support you to say, oh, they're just a bunch of climate crazies. How are you going to bring them on board with these kind of tactics?
Okay, let me help you there. So we are converting people, we are growing. That's exactly what is happening. And if I give you a quick, interesting fact, back in the 1960s, Martin Luther King was slogging away trying to help the civil rights movement in America, which we all know was a great thing. His disapproval rating amongst Americans was 63%, but he knew what he was doing was right, even if most people in America thought that he was a bad guy, he was hurting the cause, he was not going to get anywhere, but he kept going because he knew that what he was doing was right. His approval rating increased over time, and now 95% of Americans say that he's a national hero, he's got his own public holiday, and he just kept going. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Until we see the government agree to no new fossil fuel projects, which is vitally important if we're going to have a livable future for our children and for ourselves, then we're just going to keep going. And we know that history is on our side, and that I can tell you from experience, our numbers do keep growing. We don't expect everybody to love us immediately, but we're going to get there.
Yeah, I mean, protests, blocking roads and things. I mean, as frustrating as it is, and there's a lot of people watching and listening will hate it, I can see the logic behind it, even if I don't like it. Throwing tomato soup over a Van Gogh painting and then gluing yourself to the wall, I mean, what is that all about? There's Aston Martin being sprayed. Orange seems to be the colour of the season. What does that actually achieve?
I'll tell you exactly what it's about. So, watching your programme, lots of interesting stories this morning. We're talking about the government in chaos again. We're talking about apple picking, things like that. Really, the number one issue that should be the front page headlines of every news outlet every day is the climate crisis. This is absolutely massive. People are dying right now across the planet and at home. You've said I'm a GP. Let me tell you something really important that you need to hear. So I've worked in parts of the world where people are already starving because their crops have failed because of the climate crisis. I've watched children die because of malnutrition. Back home in the UK, it's now a medical fact that fossil fuel pollution is killing children because it's a major contributor to asthma. And I've been the unfortunate person who's been on the night shift in the A&E department when such a child has come in who's already stopped breathing, and I've worked on them for hours and I've watched them die, and I've held it together all night long, and then I've walked out after that night shift into the street and seen other children going to school, and I've broken down in the street and cried because I knew that boy who had died should be where those kids were, living his life. This is what we're talking about. So if throwing a can of soup on a painting gets the conversation going, gets you to talk about these issues where they should be at the forefront of everyone's mind, and let me add, no harm was done to that painting, and we knew that no harm would be done to that painting, then absolutely it's the right thing to do. God, I mean, where are your priorities here? Are you really more worried about a bit of soup on a piece of glass, or are you worried about these children that I'm having to watch die when I'm at work, trying my best and knowing that I can't succeed in a world that's obsessed with fossil fuels?